Welcome back. It's Kovacs Report. It's Wednesday, so it's time for the reviews. But this is a big one. This is one we have all been waiting for. A new #1 from DC. None other than Absolute Evil by Al Ewing and Giuseppe Camuncoli. Now, I was wrong. I'm going to say it right at the beginning. I was wrong about this book. Now, I made a video earlier on in the week where we looked through 5 or 6 of the preview pages, and that gave me a complete wrong idea of what this book was about. So I was wrong, and I'm man enough to admit it. This book actually turned out pretty good. So we're going to go into it page by page. There will be spoilers, so please do read the book beforehand if you don't want it spoiled. Like the video if you can, and definitely hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to hit 2,000 subscribers here. Trying to build a channel just on opinion, just honest to God opinion. And you know what? Sometimes I get those opinions wrong. And I am man enough, like I say, to come on here and tell you I got it wrong. And I'm happy to tell you I got it wrong with this book. Let's get into it. So, Absolute Evil #1 is the first mini-series spin-off from the Absolute Universe over from DC, which is a year old already. I can't believe 12 months have flown by. And you know what? It's a mixed bag. The Trinity books are great. Batman has grown and grown on me from a book that I really didn't like to a book that I'm actually looking forward to. Superman's just gone from strength to strength. And Wonder Woman, right now, Wonder Woman is probably the best out of the bunch. I'm not fond of the other books, especially Martian Manhunter. Not for the art. I think the art is gorgeous. I just can't stand the story, and I can't really get into the other two as well. But that's okay, because those are heroes, and this is all about the villains, and that's what I like about it. I'm drawn to books that are about the villains. I love seeing the perspective from the other side. That's exactly what this does. So let's dive into it. Now, why did I think this was going to be a terrible book? Well, that preview really showed that it was going to be all about politics again. Now, people will say comic books have always been political, and they have. And I'm absolutely fine with it. I mean, let's be honest, right? Someone pointed it out. My channel logo and name is based after Watchmen, which is a highly political book. So I can see the irony, in my opinion, from the preview. However, it's just this. Sometimes it's nice to have a bit of escapism, right? We are bombarded with politics every single day. Everything has been weaponized, left or right, up and down. No matter what you do or where you go, it's politics, politics, politics. And you know what? The world's messed up right now. So sometimes it's nice to pick up a comic book and just escape. And that's all I was saying, right? I've got no problem with politics being in comic books. It's just that preview made it look like the story was going to be sacrificed for a message. And that doesn't happen in this book, thankfully. Now, we do get some classic Al Ewing meandering and waffling throughout. However, underneath all that, there's a really interesting story here and a few surprises. Let's kick off. So we start in 1951. And we meet a very buff-looking Absolute Hawkman. Now, he's agreed to join the House Un-American Activities Committee. Now, if you don't know what that is, I knew a little bit about it, but not enough to really be an authority on it. So I looked it up, especially for the chaps over here in Britain. Most of us probably don't really know what it is. So the House Committee on Un-American Activities, popularly the House Un-American Activities Committee, was an investigative committee of the United States House of Representatives, created in 1938 to investigate alleged disloyalty and subversive activities on the part of private citizens, public employees, and those organizations suspected of having communist ties. So at that point in history, there was this great threat that the big red communist engine was going to come to America and take away people's liberties. So this committee was formed to combat that. So he's there saying, you know what? I believe I'm going to help you crush these commie rats. What do you need me to do, boys? So we jump from then to now. Now, if you don't know much about Hawkman, he has the power of reincarnation. He's been reincarnated through centuries and centuries and centuries. So it makes sense he could be part of this group way back then. And it also makes sense that he could still be part of the group now. Now we meet Oliver Queen, as you know, the absolute Green Arrow, and he is in his Arrow cave chatting to Roy. Now, I'm assuming that's Roy Harper, who is in the mainline books, is his sort of sidekick. I think Speedy, is it Red Arrow? And he's talking about the mission that he's on while he's introducing him to all the cool stuff he has in his Arrow cave. So it is high tech. He's got his own archery hall. He has the best computers. He's got gadgets, everything you could imagine. He's got vehicles and a car with an ejector seat as well. He's got everything you could possibly imagine. He is ready for war, and he is going after Jubal Slade, and he wants Roy to accompany him, but Roy's not interested. Roy does not want to get involved. Now, Oliver is very angry, and I mean very angry. He wants to chase down this guy. Now, who is Jubal Slade? Well, he is quite an obscure character from the 70s. I think he only appeared in one issue. He was a slumlord, so it makes sense he would kind of be one of these billionaires that we're talking about today. Anyway, in that book, him and Green Lantern basically took him down. He was evicting poor people onto the street. The conditions of his buildings were terrible. He just wasn't a nice chap, okay? But they took him down. Now, in this book, he's basically a stand-in for Jeffrey Epstein. You know, he's flying children to an island. Sound familiar? That's who he is. And Green Arrow is going to take him down, rightfully so. Now, while we're talking about Jubal Slade, we jump to someone else having a phone call. This guy here, Mr. Hammond, who in the mainline DC universe is a villain, and he's one of those super intelligent villains with a big head. Very, very, very intelligent chap. And he's talking to Jubal, so they're friends. And again, that makes sense that the people within that sphere of money would be talking to each other. And they're all villains, right? Anyway, he is on the way to a meeting. Now, we learn he's very misogynistic, very old-fashioned in his. The way he talks, the way he jokes, and some of the vernacular he uses, like sweetheart, toots, that kind of thing, you know. He's kind of old school, you know, very misogynistic, and he has absolutely no respect for the lower classes or people that are basically poorer than him. And there are a lot of those, right? There's not many people that are richer than him. Anyway, this meeting is super secret, no guns, no weapons of any kind, no electronics at all. And we see him enter after being rude to the security guy on the door. You can see that he sort of looks down the bit as his name. So you're getting the picture that these people aren't great. Now, speaking of people that aren't great, we meet the rest of the gang. We've got Veronica Cale. She is the National Security Advisor. Okay. And we've got all the other villains from the other books. Ra's al Ghul's there from, you know, Superman. We've got the Joker here sitting in the corner. Now, that is the Joker in his normal form. If you see my other preview video or something on the internet, you can see he actually becomes quite monstrous looking, like a Jekyll and Hyde. We haven't seen that just yet, but it is promised in some upcoming issues of Absolute Batman. Anyway, they are there to be serious, and Hector Hammond is doing a bit of a joke session with these people, and they do not like it because they've got something serious to talk about, and you've got to be serious because this is serious business. So I said it 3 times just to make sure you understand how serious they all are. Ra's al Ghul takes a little bit of a disliking to Hector Hammond, as you would expect, but we get into what this is all about. Now, Veronica Cale, she starts describing things from the past. She says, listen, in 1939, Wesley Dodds gets rich off his parents for improved anesthetic compounds. Soon after, a mass detective called the Sandman makes waves in the society pages armed with a non-lethal sleep gas. Wesley Dodds is young, idealistic, romantic. It's not hard to put 2 and 2 together. He's Sandman. Even before Dodds is found shot dead in his Sandman suit, his basement laboratory has been ransacked. A year later, the US military acquires some new and very lethal nerve gas weapons. So we go to him. And he says, 1942, Ted Grant, became the Wildcat, and he started fighting crime and slowly went up the crime ladder, beating bigger and bigger and bigger villains until he met this chap who was basically a factory inspector taking a bribe from a munitions magnate to look the other way on safety standards. And then what happens? Well, he comes into $50,000 tax-free, and that's the end of Wildcat. Grant buys a gym in somewhere, trains a couple of champions, dies peacefully in his sleep, age 81. And they show this other chap, Iron Monroe. I'm sure he's relevant, I'm sure he's relevant to the normal DC universe. I guess I know those two are nods to the mainline characters. And this guy, again, he joined a sort of lot of socialist meetings. He's called before Kovacs in a special closed-door session around the same time as a couple of other adventures of the period. But Monroe refuses to name names, calls McCarthy a demagogue. That's the end of him. So it's basically saying through the years, these heroes have risen up. And as soon as they become a little bit of a problem, they've been stamped out or got rid of. And they're saying that's the way it used to be, and that's the way it needs to continue. That's the way it's always been. There's a hierarchy here. We're in charge, they're not. However, in recent times, we've had problems. So obviously it goes through all the things happening in the Absolute Universe, introducing Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman, explaining how they've come and they broke that norm of being stamped out. They are actively resisting or actively going to pose a problem to, the plans of this assortie of people. They're saying we need to do something about it, right? We get a little nod to Dark Knight Returns cover there, which looks pretty cool. And even notice that Bruce didn't take the money. Some of these ideals are more important than the money. So they say, listen, what are we going to do? We've got this Green Lanterns. We've got Flashers. We've got Martian Manhunters. We've got all these people doing what they want, not what we want. So what we have to do, okay, is pool our resources and take them on, because we can't do it alone. And that is the story. That's what this is all about. Now, some of the gang, like Hector Hammond, he doesn't really want to join this. He thinks, I can do whatever I want. I don't need your help. I think he's the one that's sort of fighting with maybe Green Arrow, I guess. I think it's sort of implied. And he's needs convincing. A ratio girl says, listen, I think you need to listen. I think you need to join. You don't know what you're talking about. You guys are having problems with these people, right? Okay, so if we join forces, those problems are gone. It takes one phone call to get rid of them instead of millions of dollars. And we get a reveal to convince them. Look who walks in. Badass looking Hawkman with absolute Green Arrow shoved over his shoulder and thrown with a hole in his head onto the table. He just says one word, questions. So it's saying, listen, look at the power we have. Look what we can do, right? When we're focused. No one is out of our reach. I guess that starts convincing them a little bit more, but there is more resistance. Anyway, the Joker stands up and he just waffles on for a few pages. Do you know what? This is where a part of this meandering I was talking about going. He waffles on, explains times have changed, but he also explains something quite interesting. He talks about the Higgs boson particle, right? Which is known as the God particle. It's considered by many to be the final piece of the puzzle of quantum mechanics, the one elementary particle that confirms how the universe works. He said, but they're wrong. Last year we found a better one. The true end of the search. We call it the Omega particle. So you know what that's tied into, right? Darkseid and everything else. So there is this new particle, but this particle is different. And I'm going to read what it says. It says, studying it has revealed fundamental truths about the world we live in. This particle forms the basic building block of all creation. And now we know how it behaves, how it reacts, what it reacts to. This particle, this energy, it has a spiritual dimension to it, which is strange, right? Because it shouldn't have a spiritual dimension. It has a moral dimension. And they don't believe it. They say, please, you're telling me a subatomic particle understands good and evil. You can't possibly be serious. And Ratio Girl says, no. He doesn't joke. He never jokes. And listen. He says the fundamental forces of this universe trend in one direction, and now we know that includes societal forces. Gravity distorts the universe, and so the river runs, the curtain falls, the yoke is heavy. We accept that man is tethered to the earth. We do not believe a man can fly. With this discovery, we must now accept that there is likewise a moral gravity pulling down, keeping everything that is in its place. Well, Darkseid is, right? So basically he's saying, look, there's something bigger and greater going on here. He said, existence is ordered and ordained. Water flows downhill. Those who have. Those who have not, have not. The richer get richer, the poorer get poorer. Some hold the winning cards, and some clutch at a handful of jokers. This is not a chance. This is not accident. This is design. The sore losers in the game of life see their fate woven in the fabric of creation and rail against it. Call it doom. There's a philosophical term for that perspective. The just world fallacy. And imagine being so twisted, so filled with hate, so paralyzed by fear. Imagine thinking it a fallacy that the world could be just. This is what we're leading up to. This is the bit that I thought was really, really interesting. Essentially, he's basically saying, but the world is just. We have evidence, not of doom, but of a natural order worked upon the world by a higher power. If spored little anarchists like the late Mr. McQueen here, would stand against that order, that I call injustice. Because you'll all think of this as the Injustice League. No. Remember, in this world, everything is flipped. In this world, Batman's the villain, Joker is the hero. So would it not make sense that the good guys would be an Injustice League, right? And the bad guys are the Absolute Universe's Justice League. And that is a big reveal. And this is the forming of the Absolute Justice League, and it's all villains. And that's, for me, was the big twist. But guess what? Hold on. There's one more twist. Now, after the big splash page here, there's a meeting of Brainiac and Mirror Man. And essentially here, we're learning that Mirror Man needs confirmation of what was going on in that meeting, which Brainiac was spying on. Okay, because he's seeing things in a mirror dimension and he's trying to work out what's going on. So that's something that they're brewing, which I guess is going to evolve in the next few issues. Maybe the two universes connecting. I don't know just yet, so I don't want to speculate. But the second reveal is here. Brainiac says that, you know what? I think for the Justice League to be complete, it needs one more member. Because who's missing? Who's missing, guys? Yeah. Anyway, we're about to find out. So we go to this sort of this ranch out there. This guy's enjoying his coffee, enjoying the view. He's there with his, I guess, his loving wife. Nothing needs to change. Everything's groovy. Everything's great. But the phone rings. The phone has rung because guess what? It's Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is going to hopefully be the final piece in the absolute Justice League. Look at him there with his little beard, with hair even, just chilling out, you know, on the prairie, living the life of Riley, but it's about to get messed up, let's just say. So I don't think I've seen Lex Luthor in any other Absolute book, unless I'm completely missed something and forgotten it. So this is huge. So we've got two big reveals here. We now have the absolute Lex Luthor. Now, is he going to be a force for good? Is he going to be a force for bad? Because we're assuming, as Brainiac says, they need Lex Luthor to complete, and everyone's been phoning each other, that maybe that's a call from the bad guys, you know? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a call from the good guys. Who knows? I do not know. I'm just throwing ideas out there. But again, this book was really surprising. The art was really, really nice. The art worked really, really well. The characters look imposing. Everyone looks great. I like how the Joker's eyes get really wide and start going bloodshot, and those green, you know, the green really pops out of there. And you can see a bit of that sort of craziness we're familiar with coming out of it. And I liked how the story just got to, I don't know, I was going to say a non-political point, but I'd like to see that it got to the story. You know, it put all that other stuff that I had preconceived by that terrible preview. And it really wasn't a great preview. Some would say it was fine. Just you, Angelo. And maybe it is. All right. Maybe I'm kind of once bitten, twice shy with comic book previews and things that, you know, are happening in comics. But I'm going to say again, I was wrong. I mean, that first shocker for me sealed the deal. And I was like, okay, my faith in this book has returned, and I'm definitely going to be following it month after month while it rocks. So there we go. Those are my thoughts. I'll be very interested in yours. So let me know in the comments what you think. Like I say, if you can like the video, I'd really, really appreciate it. And you know what? If you can hit subscribe and help me hit 2,000 subscribers, yeah, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. So I thank you in advance. I thank everyone else who's been following along for, you know, since the channel started, for their likes, their views, their shares, and their comments. Anyway, take care, guys. Read more comics, and we'll see you in the next one.